In case you're wondering what a highfalutin intergenerational conversation starter looks like, Jimmy had an allergy to highfalutin, so it's a little box called Tell Me a Tale, and if anybody is curious, there's one at our table, which is 4, and the memorial table, which is 6. Okay. 2. Anybody who knows Jimmy knows that what spinach is to Popeye, Diet Dr. Pepper was to Jimmy. So I might have stolen that line from her family, I'm not sure, but we're keeping her with us. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay, well, talk about pioneers. Dr. Jimmy Coker Holland was one of 3 women in her medical school class in 1948. A farmer's daughter from Nevada, Texas, who could remember when electricity first came to the farm. Except we psycho-oncologists, we were her crops. In life, up until the moment she died on Christmas Eve at 89, Jimmy made everyone feel appreciated, as if someone in the universe always had our backs. And I mean everyone. Patients, colleagues, students, building staff, even a maintenance worker's teenage daughter who aspired to be a psychologist. Jimmy took her under her wing too. When Teresa told me at Jimmy's memorial service that Jimmy had nominated me to be a woman of influence, I was floored. Now, right behind and above Teresa's head was a huge picture of Jimmy, kind of like that size, sporting her characteristic grin, smiling down at me as if from beyond, still giving of herself, still having my back. And then to learn this honor was named for Jimmy. I'd like to share just how much it means to me. I will fail. Her CV alone was 35 pages long, but I'll try. Jimmy and I were completely different from each other, and not just because we were 35 years apart in age. I used to call her the can-do Texas shiksa to my Ivy New York Jew. There's an old joke. What's a Jewish telegram? Answer. Start worrying. Details to follow. That's me. Jimmy was the optimist. I was the problem finder. But we were a great intergenerational team, and we made each other laugh. Like when I told her about the day I was first diagnosed with breast cancer back in 2006. How I turned to my husband, Rob, and my first thought wasn't, how could this happen? Which came later in spades. But my first thought was, ha! Told ya! Even though the diagnosis came a few years after I'd last worked at Memorial, I called Jimmy before my own parents. When I finished treatment, I started consulting to her geriatric psycho-oncology group, the first of its kind. Jimmy had lots of firsts, with a newfound appreciation for aging. Jimmy Holland's can-do-ness was infectious. The Dalai Lama, who once served on a panel with her, describes empathy as compassion plus courage. It takes courage to bear witness to suffering you can't fix. Jimmy was all about the empathy. There's a Jewish proverb, you can't control the wind, but you can adjust your sails. And she was open to whatever it took to help you adjust your sails, whether with words, ears, a warm smile, or a prescription pen. When she first created our field in the 1970s, cancer wasn't talked about, let alone how to cope with it. She often told the story of how the New York Times would not accept a classified ad unless the words breast cancer support group were changed to meeting to discuss diseases of the chest wall. Her work helped change that. She asked a simple but relentless question. how do cancer patients feel about what's happening to them? The doctor's answers ranged from, "Who cares?" to "They're fine." They had their hands full trying to find cures. So Jimmy asked the real experts, patients. She published almost 500 papers, textbooks, started and inspired departments, societies, journals, training programs. It's tiring just to read about it. Daring medicine to treat the whole person. Jimmy usually started off meetings with colleagues or students by asking after our families, remembering all the details from the last time. She genuinely wanted to know, but she was also slyly teaching us to remember what was important to us as whole people too. She understood that cancer survivors fight two battles, the one to survive and the one to have a meaningful life regardless of how that first battle goes. Because we're not just warriors, we're the battlefield. Whether the bombs are dropped by the good guys or the bad guys, we're the ones they fall on, or in. Surgeries, chemo, radiation, or as I like to call them when I was undergoing them, chopping, poisoning, and the big burn. Although that's improving, thanks especially to organizations like Martel and to your supporting Martel, cancer may be the only illness whose treatment is almost as scary as the disease. And our job as patients is simply to take it, even though we'll know only in retrospect whether the enemy was vanquished or even slowed down. To hear the beauty in birdsong, to keep loving people whose health you envy, to appreciate the moments we're grateful for despite our suffering, or even because of it. Jimmy knew these things took courage too, even to try. So I'll end with 5 things I'm grateful for right now. The people I love and who love me, including Dr. Jimmy Coker Holland, and the whole wonderful Holland clan, and the Memorial family, colleagues, patients, and the choppers, poisoners, and burners who could be spending their time doing much more lucrative things than trying to save our lives. The Martel Foundation for their critical support and for this great honor, and Teresa for her perfectly timed gift. And finally, to everyone whose butt is in a seat in this room supporting the people and causes you care about, thank you for having our backs. Thank you.